Oh, okay. Oop, turn this light off. Oh, okay. Oh, I peeked the mic. Um, we should probably get started. Boy, this week has been adventures. Uh, I don't know what the heck happened yesterday. I don't know how I fixed it. I don't know why my mic is peaking so hard right now. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, that should be a little bit better. Um, I reset. Don't face away from the camera while I'm talking. I reset everything I could find in OBS and in Twitch. I don't know what was happening. OBS couldn't find my Twitch account. OBS had no errors. Twitch had no errors. It's just they wouldn't connect. No clue. Um, but I do need to get the front end of this thing started because dropping my magnets, because the meat is going to take a while. This is supposed to be a stew, and the shortest version I was able to find called for 2.5 hours. The longer one said, "Oh, go for 4." So, and I have pretty much all the same ingredients that I had ready to go for Tuesday, which unfortunately means that I had to discard a little bit of the meat. I'm willing to accept a little bit of graying on beef. A couple of those short ribs had gone too far in the gray direction, and I'm not going to mess with that. If this was like a steak where I was going to cook it real quick, and then leave the inside nice and rare or something, we're way over the hill for that. This meat is going to be cooked to death, though. It's stewed, so anything that's in there is going to be well killed off before we ever get around to eating it. So just a little bit of discoloration is okay for an application like this. Here's the meat. You can see we've got some graying around the top there and a little bit on the edge there. Not super, super bad, but not like the best looking piece of meat ever. But again, this is being stewed for hours. So I reasonably confident we're not going to end up with anything untoward. The pieces I had to discard each of them were more than half gray, which is why they're not in a package right now, because I took the whole shebang out. But I do want to get a little bit of browning on the surface before we get into the stewing part. So I'm going to do that directly here in my Dutch oven, which is where we're going to build the stew as we go. Yeah. So the recipe here, I've made this once before, and I'm pretty sure I made it wrong last time. What we're making here is kare-kare, which is a stew, a Filipino, I think it's like a celebration stew. I'm not 100% on the cultural significance of it. It doesn't feel like a normal, like everyday food, because first of all, it's got some pretty pricey cuts of beef in it. I'm using short rib because it's texturally similar and a bit cheaper than oxtail, but this calls for oxtail as the main thing, and that stuff has gotten. Once upon a time, that was a really cheap piece of meat, but oxtail has gotten really expensive. So if you want to splurge on oxtail, go right ahead. I am not doing so this time. First time I made it, I actually did make it with oxtail. I made it specifically because I found a piece of oxtail in the bargain meat container. There, I've got a towel on the back side of that door. I should get a separate towel so I can stay on camera while I'm drying my hands. I found oxtail in the bargain meat thing, and it was just one piece of oxtail. So it was also it was double cheap because it wasn't the whole package. It was just one piece, and it was discounted because they wanted to get rid of it. And I didn't know what to do with oxtail. I grabbed it because it was a different meat and it was on sale. So I was like, oh, I got to try that. We got to try that. And then I went and did research, and that was during my Filipino food kick, which I guess we're coming back around to now. And I made kare-kare. But I'm pretty sure I made it wrong. It was tasty. Whatever I made was tasty, but I don't think it was very authentic. This time, I do have a recipe pulled up. As usual, I have a recipe pulled up for reference, but this time I'm kind of following it a little bit more. The site we're using is Hansalang Pinoy, which is the same site I used as reference for the lumpia. So I guess I'm recommending them now as a good source for Filipino food items. I feel like my headset is fritzing a little bit. Let's see. Fortunately, most of the ingredients for this are vegetables, so nothing really went bad except for a little bit of the meat. And actually, one of the 3 short ribs I've got here, the third one, I just bought to fill it out because I knew I was going to lose part of that first package because I could see before I even opened it up that they were going a tiny bit too gray, even for a stew. I bought a fresh package of short rib, pulled one out to fill in the one for the one I lost, and we froze the rest. So I've got some frozen ones now. Well, they're literally just went in, so they're not frozen yet, but they're going to be frozen. So in theory, I'll have short rib down the line. We can do again on short notice. They're pretty nice looking pieces. The short rib, if I recall, if I point at myself, is like the down here on the cow, like below the main rib cage, those sort of loose ribs. I think that's where it is. I know it's a tough piece of meat with a bone in it. So they get a lot of work wherever they are, and that means they got a lot of flavor, but a lot of toughness. So they don't take well to short cooking. They really want long, preferably long wet cooking, I think. They're not the fattiest thing in the world. So I think if you just tried to dry cook them, they would, like in a smoker, they would just shrivel up. Because mostly what I see for recommendations for short rib is braises and such, or stews like the one we're making now. We're also going to need some onion. The onion and the beef go in first. Once that pan is hot, I'm going to. It doesn't actually call for me to sear off the meat at all, but I want some of that seared flavor. Here, I'll move the gentleman. The gentleman don't need to be here. I want some of that seared flavor, and then we'll get this in early enough on that. Oh, I know what I should do. Good thought. Good thought, whoever just suggested that to my brain from wherever you are. We're going to pre-boil some water so that when I add water to this thing, it doesn't tank the temperature all the way down. I also need some boiling water a little bit later for the natto seed, so we'll have it ready to go. So that way, when I put the water in there, the temperature stays up. I lost my train of thought because I thought about water for a moment. Oh boy, and this is a strange day. I hope I'm wondering if anyone's going to show up today. I never do this on Thursdays. I tried at one point, but I want to get these guys started. Okay, we got a little bit of sizzle. We don't need a lot of sizzle, so that's fine. Um, but I want to get these guys started early enough that I can actually get through this recipe before the end. And then once they're on the way, get over to that camera. Once they're on the way and stewing, uh, we can prep all the rest of the stuff. Because the only parts of it that need to stew for the entire length are the meat and the onion. The onion will break down and help form some of the basis of our sauce. I'm wondering if I should dice it smaller than this. Yeah. We're going to take it into little pieces while I'm waiting. And the meat has to stew the whole time because it's tough. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that short rib is sufficiently less tough than oxtail that I'll be able to kind of shortcut the stewing process a little bit. Oxtail is quite a tough cookie, a tough piece of meat. So yeah, and then once I've gotten it started and it's bruddling away and I've got lots of time to kill, and I'm prepping other things, I can talk about some of the things I found, some of the other fun ingredients I've picked up. I can tell you about this thing, this green fruit that's half the size of my head. Ooh, stay tuned to find out what the heck that thing is. This tomato that looks like a butt. All right, I'm energetic today. I was energetic yesterday. I was rocking and ready to go, and then OBS decided to have a fit, and that really got me frustrated. And then on Tuesday, I was just so blah. I could have done the show, but I was just so blah that I wasn't going to bring any energy to it. Today, we've got energy, and we've got a successful broadcast. So I'm feeling especially peppy. A little bit of sticking on the bottom at this point is fine and frankly expected. Get a pot holder so this doesn't slide around on me. I only put a dribble of oil in there. They should release once they are browned, and anything that sticks is just going to contribute to our stewed results later on. The older pieces, I think, are sticking a bit more, and that's probably the fault of the proteins having started to break down a little bit on me, since they're a wee bit aged. Oh yeah, okay, nice little browning, not a ton of crust, just a little bit. They are releasing. Get these last two flipped. the heat down on that, actually, and I'm going to throw our onion right in on top of it. And it can start cooking as well. Get a little bit of browning on the onion before we drown it in liquid for our long, awkward stovetop braise, because I'm not putting this one in the oven, because that's the slow braise. Oven braising, I think, is actually the better method. It gives you much finer temperature control, but it's also more time consuming. You'll also note we didn't salt any of this. Because we're not going to, because there's some really salty ingredients coming down the line that are bringing a lot of flavor, but also a lot of salt, and we're not going to need any extra salt. Let's take us back over to the counter for our next ingredient that needs to fancy steep. Oh, if I can get it open. See if anybody is familiar with what these are. Ooh, they smell really good. These are a natto seed. We need a good amount of them. Oh, that's stuck to the bottom. And some boiling water. As you can see, they immediately turned the water yellow. They're going to progressively turn the water more and more red as they soak. Hi, welcome in. So those guys are going to have to steep on the side. Lurkers are always welcome. Annatto is the stuff that is used to make cheddar cheese orange. Let's see. So it's not like it's totally bland. It's got a flavor. The seeds are quite hard. I'm not sure I can eat one. But they also have a lot of color. I'm sure they have some flavor that they're going to impart. They're so hard I can't really bite into them. They have an interesting smell, almost a citrusy smell, like a non-fruity citrus, like an unsweetened citrus smell. It's strange. Let's take a peek at these oxtail pieces. They're browned on the bottom, or at least getting there. Those are good enough. We're adding our water to our pot. We're going to start our long, slow process. The onions already brought the temperature down quite a lot. Okay. And that, what I just did, is a neat trick that I need to remember to do more often, which is use a kettle to pre-boil the water that you're going to put into a stew or a braise or something, so that you don't have to wait. So you're not putting a bunch of cold water in there, bringing the temperature down, and having to wait to bring back up. See, it's already bubbling. You can't because I have the wrong camera on. Like, we're already getting bubbles around the edge because that water was already up to temp. We'll put the annatto there. Gradually see it change color. Okay. We are past the first stage of the process, which is getting those guys in there and going. because they need to be in there for the full time. Now I can calm down a bit. Lid on that. Calm down a bit and talk about some other things that we've got going. I already mentioned the annatto. The recipe I am using just says that it's for color, but it definitely has a smell and a flavor. So it's going to do something besides just make this stuff reddish. But I guess we'll see. It might be too subtle to come through with all the other stuff that's going in there, because there is some punchy stuff going in there. One of our top ingredients for this, and I've got different sizes, so I guess I'm going to start with that guy. These long, skinny eggplants. You could use, or aubergine. You could use the big fat ones if you, if that's all you can find. The skinny ones, as much of that cap off as I can before I cut it. These skinny ones will give you nicer pieces, I think. And I also think they're going to be less seedy, less bitter. You know, eggplants have those weird little bitter seeds in them. I find that the skinny ones have less of that in general. I can't even see the seeds in this. This might have been picked slightly early. But this stuff, the first time I made, this is one of the mistakes I made the first time. First time I made kare-kare was I threw the eggplant in much too early and stewed it, and it just turned to mush, which is what it does, but it was not a pleasant texture, not a good eating experience to have it turned to complete mush. But these guys should. I wanted to open this to see how much there was, or see what it looked like inside, and also to get a rough idea of how much I had sliced up. So we're not making I've got a recipe, but the recipe is enormous, and it's not amounts of things; it's quantities of fruits. So it's like one onion, one big aubergine. So it's really hard to cut it down, cut the recipe down in terms of size. It's a strange one. It feels like a traditional recipe that somebody just wrote down. So I'm kind of winging it. I'm kind of eyeballing in things as I go. Let's see. The beans. Now, this is something that I have chosen to change out of convenience more than anything. Oh, first of all, here's my lovely Bok Choy with a little bit of a chunk. Why is my camera away? Camera, sort yourself out. A baby. This is a baby Bok Choy. This is a massive baby Bok Choy. We'll set that aside. I don't want to cut that too early. What we've got here are the beans, rainbow beans, which I'm going to take the ends off of. This recipe, the original version of the recipe, calls for something called snake beans. which I was able to find. So we're not using these regular beans as a necessity, but as a choice because I like the colors. And near as I can tell, snake beans are almost exactly the same bean. They're just really, really long. And they're supposed to be chopped up anyways. It's not like they're using them as whole beans. They're using them as like little segments that are no bigger than these. So I'm not sure that there's a value. I think this is adequate beanage. Um, they also will be cooked on the side and not stewed, which is another mistake I made the first time. Although the beans held up much, much better being stewed than the aubergines did. They really broke down. The beans have enough substance to hold up. And again, the recipe doesn't have a quantity so much as like it calls for one bunch of snake beans, which I bet you if you lived where this recipe is common, you'd know exactly how much that was, but I don't know how much a bunch of snake beans is. I might have too much bean here for all I know. But I like the colors on these guys. I have tasted these. This isn't like I just got these just for the color and I'm testing them out now. These are just green beans. The purple ones and the white ones taste exactly the same as the green ones, and the purple ones are even green on the inside. And the last time I cooked them, the purple color faded away pretty quick. So I'm going to see if I can preserve the purpleness a little bit here. I think it would make a nice pop in the finished dish. The white ones, on the other hand, have started developing some little rusty spots, which I think is some kind of oxidation happening on the surface, on the skins. And it probably happens on the green ones too, it's just that you can't see it. The white ones have no pigment, so anything that happens to them becomes very visible. So they're a little bit less perfectly snowy yellow than they were when I picked them up. Okay, beans. Well, let's go to a dish for those as well. Might be too many beans. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the proportions are supposed to be for the finished dish. Which vegetables are meant to take the forefront? The pictures look like they got a lot of beans, so I'm assuming that beans are meant to be pretty prominent. I'm not going to cut this guy right away because the leaves will go wilty once you separate them from the stalks. So we're going to cut that one a little bit later. This is something I didn't think I was going to find, and I did find it. The real recipe calls for 1 banana flower bud. 1 small banana flower bud. Well, every once in a great while, I have actually seen banana blossom, fresh banana blossom, for sale locally. Today was not that day. This week was not that week. This is banana blossom in brine. So I guess I'll take a couple of these guys out. and we'll use them. I don't know how it compares to the real thing, because the few times I have seen banana blossom locally, I didn't get it because I didn't know what to do with it. It's a weird ingredient. I have gotten the canned one once before, and I tried to use them like a meat substitute because they're supposed to be. They're not. They don't have protein. What they have is that fibrous texture. Get one of these that looks somewhat nice. That one looks pretty nice. The first one I picked up looked like it had already been skinned. Yeah, some of these don't look so nice. If I take the stemmy part off of that one, it just looks like it's been crinkled. Got little baby bananas growing on the outside here. Everything in the jar here should be edible as well. Just that I'm not getting the nice pieces. And again, I think that's probably going to be enough, since I'm not making as large of a recipe as this this guide I'm following seems to want to. I'm going to save the rest of these. We're going to get them out of that can, though. We'll make something else with them. They're meant to be a pretty good substitute for fish or like that kind of sort of flaky meat. So if I hang on to them, we can try that in the near future. They're not going to keep super long now that I've got them out of the can. And we've taken out. Oh, we definitely took the only two nice ones out of there. So we're going to save those in there. And I guess I'll probably try to use them on Saturday because that's not too far away. And I've got to come up with something fun for that. So Banana Blossom on the back burner, even more than everything else is on the back burner. I should see what the instructions are. It's saute the garlic, banana flour, eggplant, beans in a separate pan, then add. Doesn't even say how I should cut the banana flour. It just says saute. And there's no pictures. So, I don't know. I guess we'll hang on to those guys. They can rest in with the aubergine while we wait. Let's get the juice off of my cutting board here. Vegetables, meat, and natto water. Our other major ingredient that needs to be pre-prepped is actually peanuts. Which I've got here. They're supposed to be chopped. Just eyeballing an amount. First of all, they're going to be chopped. They're also going to be cooked quite a bit. They are not a crunchy topping for this dish. Toasted rice. It actually doesn't call for chopped peanuts. It calls for ground peanuts. So I guess the quick solution for that would just be to do chunky peanut butter. I don't have chunky peanut butter. I've only got smooth. I know. I've got a device for this. I just have to coffee grinder. No, we don't use the coffee grinder a lot. I prefer to grind my spices in the mortar, but for this stuff, I think I'm going to make an exception. And we're going to see how well this thing handles a container filled with peanuts. Very effective, is what I have to say. Highly effective. No challenge at all for the power of modern technology. Oop. Except that it grounded a little bit too finely and stuck to the sides. That's not the best. Make this guy hard to clean. Okay. You know, for a spice grinder, I got a Goodwill for $1. This guy does pretty good work. Okay. There's our ground peanut. I just noticed, and toasted rice is also on this list. I was going to serve it over rice, but by the looks of it, I'm supposed to grind some rice or toast some rice, grind it, and then throw it in the stew. It's directly into the stew. So I guess we'll get the grinder back, and I will toast some rice in a side pan. Let's take a peek at this thing. It's probably boiling a little bit harder than it's meant to. Pretty sure a stew wants to simmer, not hard boil. But we need that burner in the front anyways, so that guy's moving to the back. I guess we'll put it on a slightly lower temperature. Okay, so toasting rice needs to be done in a dry metal pan. How much does that one call for? A half a cup of toasted rice. And we're making probably about half the recipe here, so I'm actually going to just do a 1/4 cup scoop of rice. This has to be a thickener for the stew, more than a proper like rice base for it. That's what I get for not reading ahead and for improvising a recipe that I've never done properly before. So we have rice, and we're going to have to pay attention to it while we toast it, because I don't want to burn my rice. we're doing basically what we do when we toast nuts. Is it's going to give it some nice warm toasty flavors. Peek out the window here. Some nice warm toasty flavors, but much like nuts, it'll probably burn very, very readily. And then we're going to try to grind it in our same grinder. The rice and the peanuts are supposed to go in at about the same time, so I'm not worried about having the rice and the peanuts mixing. What we're doing here is using the curved slope of the pan to make a little wave of rice that then cascades back into the pan, thus flipping the whole bunch of them. We're developing a little bit of a toasty smell already, so this can't be too much longer. If I see browning at all, it's coming off. This has come back up to a pretty rolling boil. Get the temperature down a shade further on that guy. And then it wants me to grind this like a spice. This feels almost like I'm like they picked up tips from a risotto and then they poured it into a stew. Interesting cooking. This is why I like Filipino cooking so much. It's got all these ideas that feel like they're lifted from other culinary traditions, and then they're combined in ways that the places that they're from would never have combined them. Ooh, that smells good. That smells exactly like one of those heat packs that are full of rice. That's what this smells like. It smells like hot rice. Interesting. Oh, my annatto water is probably ready to be added in as well. I don't think we're going to get any more color out of that. That's the strangest ingredient. I don't typically put colorings in any of my cooking, except for occasionally ice cream when I want something like mint ice cream to be green. But this stuff, I have to assume that it brings a flavor, not just a color. Because it certainly isn't adding a lot of color. We're going to taste one of these, see if they've softened up enough to even... Oh, they're so hard. They're like little stones. They're so hard. Oop. Distracted myself. We're developing some browning and a little bit of steaming off the surface. So that stuff is coming out of that pan. Put it right into the grinder over here. Should we put it right into the grinder? We're going to put it into a transfer dish. To stop its cooking, because it's hot. And then we're gonna let it cool off a little bit before I grind it so that I don't damage my grinder by putting in hot rice. So I mentioned at the beginning, now I've got a moment to wait. I mentioned at the beginning, this thing that I found. This is not going in this recipe. This thing, which as you can see is as big as my hand, uh, is an avocado of a variety I've never seen before. And it wasn't wildly expensive. It's hard. I feel like it's not ripe. So I'm going to hang on to it, see if it ripens up a little bit. But because the regular avocados, the regular little wrinkly ones, are going for like $1.50 around me. This thing was $3, and it's definitely more than twice the size of one of those little ones. So unless it's just all seed in the middle, and it's a better deal, but I don't know what it's like. The seed feels loose, like when I shake it, there's a little something rattling around in the middle. So I don't know much about it. I literally just picked it up today because I saw it and the sign said avocados, and I was like, what? So, yeah, that's exciting. Stay tuned for me to cut into that thing and learn what makes it an avocado. Okay, that's cooled off enough that I can touch it, so I'm going to say it's cooled off enough to grind. We should get out a staging bowl for that stuff too, once it comes out of there. Never done ground rice before. This is a new one for me. It's not like rice flour. It's just like, well, I suppose I could make this into almost rice flour. But the best I can imagine of this, of what the purpose of this is that I'm making it like a thickener that's going to get in there. I'm like releasing all the starches from the rice. That also stuck to the bottom in an awkward way. And a little bit of peanut in there too. And just a scooch of peanut, a skosh of peanut. Okay. I'm gonna need a pan. Pan's already ready to go. That's gonna be our pan for sautéing our vegetables when we get that far. We're an hour in. I didn't get this meat in for at least 20 minutes, so what are any of my other ingredients? Garlic, onion, peanuts, more peanuts, this time in butter form. Beans, bok choy, yeah, okay. Well, I think we've got all the various bits and pieces. We just need to cook and combine. I'm keeping an eye on my stew, but it's definitely not ready. I'm trying to make sure that it's not at a raging boil because it's supposed to be a nice simmer. Um, yeah. So, yeah, I can talk about some of the non-prep ingredients that I'm going to be throwing into this. If I can remember where I put them. There it is. This stuff, which has been dyed a garish shade of Pepto-Bismol pink. Um, it even proudly talks about red number 3. Uh, these are, well, I almost think that little cup, that little thing on the side there, is what we're making, but it doesn't say what it is on the package. But it's got eggplants and beans, and then a big mound of this partially fermented shrimp fry. When I bought this, I thought it was fried shrimps, like you get that fried garlic or fried peppers, but no, these are baby shrimps that have been salted and preserved and a little bit fermented. Um, and they're used in a similar way that fish sauce or Chinese shrimp paste or those type of things are used. So it's got a strong umami flavor and a lot of salt and a bit of fishiness, but you don't add a ton to whatever you're adding it to. We're also adding fish sauce to this because this also wants fish sauce. Um, and we're still killing this little tiny bottle of fish sauce. I've got a big one ready to go, but turns out I use not a ton of fish sauce in my general day-to-day cooking, so I probably should have just gotten another one of these little guys. Although fish sauce never goes off, so I don't think there's any danger in wasting the big bottle of fish sauce. It's one of those ingredients that just never ever goes away, since it's already kind of gross. Like if you ever have fish sauce, right, these are the extra annatto seeds. They're so hard. I was going to taste one for you guys, but they're literally so hard I can't crack one. Uh, I hope they're doing whatever they were going to do in there. I fully understand why they're not just being thrown into the pot, because yeesh, they're so hard. I don't think they would cook down even in a stew. Garlic. Oh, that's what I should be doing right now. We're gonna take half a head of garlic and mince it up, and that's got to be done well enough in advance that the garlic flavor can fully develop before we add it to the heat. This was the garlic that I tried doing a hand crush on last time, and it partially crushed some of the cloves that were still in the bunch, resulting in a tiny bit of juice leaking out and it becoming sticky. So I suggest not trying to lean into and crush your head of garlic apart, even though I've seen a fancy internet chef do that. He probably practiced a lot to get that far and pulverized more than a few heads of garlic in the process. Uh, Fortunately, the skins are coming off quite easily. I don't even need the rubber tube. We're using a good amount of garlic. I probably stand some more garlic than this, but we're just finishing off the remainder of this head of garlic. If I feel it needs a little bit more garlic, I'll probably add some garlic powder rather than more fresh garlic. Let's get that stuff. No, I think I actually want to do that in a proper dice or mince, not to the little microplane or the crusher. I think I want the little bits because they're going to have to sort of stand up to a wee bit more cooking than normal. Just a wee bit. So we're going to get out our big knife and just kind of whack through them until they're little, until they're wee. Because the finer you mince your garlic, the more of that garlicky juice it'll produce, but also the faster it will burn when you get around to actually cooking it. So striking a balance based on the specific dish you're working on. I just lost one of my little pieces of garlic over the edge. Come back, little garlic. Here's a fun tip. I advise keeping a clean floor in your home kitchen so that in the event that you drop something, you can just pick it up, no worry, and pop it right back where you're cooking. If your floor is a filthy, unkempt disaster and you drop something, that thing's a lost cause. I'm not picking it up out of a hairball. So there's my tip. Obviously, keeping a clean kitchen is good for a number of reasons, but there's another reason. It makes the 5-second rule make sense. And even then, it's not really a 5-second rule. It prevents it from being an instant loss when things fall on the floor from grossness. That's a sticky garlic. And that's another thing. Garlic is very sticky, so dropping garlic, of all things, would be a big loss on an unkempt floor. This is going to need some oil over here in the pan. That burner's off. Everything but the bok choy has been prepped. Except for the few things that just need to be put in straight. I want to get these jars out of the way, so I'm just going to make more bowls. This stuff. Oh my god, this stuff it's shockingly pink. If any one of these ingredients is going to affect the color of this dish, it is going to be this stuff. It's also pungent. Like, this is a case where I really wish there was a smell-o-vision. This stuff is it's a unique smell. It's not that it's fishy. It's a very different kind of strong smell than even fish sauce, which I'm adding directly to that. I'm going to measure out a teaspoon of fish sauce. Oh, this thing wants a half a cup of shrimp paste. That's a lot of shrimp paste. Um, I'm not putting half a cup of shrimp paste. I'm putting in some shrimp paste. I guess we could add a little bit more shrimp paste. I'm not adding a half a cup of shrimp paste. First of all, I'm not making the full size recipe, so that would be foolish. It would just taste like shrimp paste. Um, I guess it wants quite a bit of it, so we're going to add a little bit more, but not too much more. And the fish sauce will help that too, because fish sauce is quite concentrated, fermented, fishy flavor. The fish sauce also helps loosen up the shrimp a little bit, because the shrimp stuff is quite thick, on account of being just a bunch of little tiny shrimps, I think. Just a dash more of that. Knowing basically what these flavors are trying to do together, I think I could improvise this using other ingredients if I wanted to. This is the only source. Well, there's some salt in the peanuts as well, but this is the only major source of salt in this entire dish. I didn't salt the meat. I didn't salt the vegetables. I'm not going to salt any of the rest of that stuff. So having quite a lot of this makes sense if you want to get this seasoned. See, I don't want to do the vegetables too far in advance because they don't need to go in there into stew with the rest of that, really. So, once again, I feel I have a moment to relax. Boy, I should have seen this coming and thought of something to fill in the time. Here we have peanut butter. This is, put the lid back on so I can show you, 100% peanuts. And the ingredients confirm it. Peanuts. I've been looking at peanut butters lately, and I had been buying one of the big major brands, the natural variant, until I looked at the back, because it's peanut butter, and it's only got peanuts, salt, and one other ingredient, which is the reason I'm not getting it now, because that other ingredient was palm oil. Because the big brands don't want to do this runny, have to stir peanut butter. They want to do, because this stuff is like soupy. They want to do stuff peanut butter that you can just take right out of the jar and use as a spread. And there's two ways to accomplish that. And if you look at the big chain brand peanut butters, they're doing those two ways, and they're labeling one as regular and one as natural. And the regular one is hydrogenated oil, with which they can stabilize. See, this stuff separates even all the way down at the bottom. It gets very, very, very thick. Because the peanut oil is a liquid at room temperature, so it all wants to separate. The other one, the natural variant ones, all use palm oil. And that's why I'm not using them anymore. I may actually go back to the non-natural versions because palm oil is bad news, guys. Like the way it was used as as the traditional local oil, where the palm where the oil palms are from, was fine. But modern industrial uses, and thus the massive, massive overproduction of palm oil, causes a lot of big environmental problems. Those plantations are very bad for the places they're planting them. So I actively cut palm oil out of. We're using a lot of peanut butter here. Probably a little bit too much, honestly. Let's take one of those big globs and put it back. What was I saying? I've been cutting palm oil out. Also, I have some kind of mild allergy to palm oil, so it's not been a big loss to me. I kind of avoided it to begin with. Some things I guess I never noticed that they weren't supposed to have a harshness to them. I just assumed that's how those things were. Like my peanut grips off the side of my jar here. Like the Three Musketeers bar. The Three Musketeers bar, people talk about, oh, it's so nice and light. And I always thought, yeah, but it's like harsh. Well, I now know that that harshness is because the Three Musketeers is like all palm oil. It's like a foamed palm oil nougat. And that's why it made my throat hurt. The more you know. So, yeah. Long story for I don't like peanut butter that has palm oil in it because it makes my throat hurt and it's also killing the orangutans. I need to test the tenderness of our meat. So let's get over to the stove. Pop this guy open. He's come back up to a boil. The liquid is becoming clearer in there, which is interesting. Okay, we need a fork to give us a tester. Reasonably sharp fork. Not a crazy sharp fork. That's actually coming along pretty good. That one's got a lot of bone in it. Like I can stab it through it and pick it up, and it holds together. It does definitely need more time if I'm going to get that nice, perfectly stewed, soft result. But it is coming along nicely. So I guess I will start gently sauteing my vegetables. That on, heat on medium low, about 4.5. Get this preparation. Okay. I also could take the top off of that and bring the heat up. or I could just bring the heat up and leave the top on for a little while. I'm not sure. I'm kind of winging this. Like I said, this recipe I'm following is very simple. There's not a lot to it. Feels like a traditional recipe that somebody just wrote down, which is great. But it means there's not a lot of like times or quantities in it. But I think our meat is getting there. I guess I'll take this time to prep the bok choy, which is a little bit dirty. That's a thing that these layered leafy vegetables often develop is they catch dirt in between the leaf sections. And the commercially available things are often very, very thoroughly cleaned. But if you're getting one from a little bit more of a local source, they often still have a decent amount of grit in them. If we go to the countertop, you can see I just took these guys off there. There's definitely some dirt trapped underneath the leaf things there, the where the stems were all clustered together. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse that off. It's not going to be perfectly snowy white clean, but all the loose grit is going to come off pretty easily. And that the grit gets in there pretty much just because these things grow out of the ground, and as they're growing up, they catch a little bit in between the leaves as they're coming up. Just going to use up the rest of this. And as you can see, the closer you get to the top, because those leaves sprouted out later, often after it was already out of the dirt, they don't have that same grittiness. I'm going to save one nice whole one. And then I'm going to take the stem and the leaf apart on each of these, because the stems have a little bit of toughness to them, and the leaves are a classic leafy green. So the stems need to cook more than the leaves do. We could probably throw the leaves in, honestly, without sauteing them right into the stew, and just have them cook in the liquid instead of sauteing them on the side and then adding them. Take these. This was supposed to be a baby bok choy, but it was such a big baby bok choy that I'm not 100% sure about the quantities. Normally, baby bok choys are like, you get them, that's the whole thing. They're about that big. This one was just enormous. And I don't know why it was being sold as a baby bok choy. Like, it was sitting next to regular bok choy. It was about the same size as them. But it was a lot cheaper because baby bok choy is less expensive where I am than the full size stuff. That one's a little bit creepy. I'm just going to pitch the creepy part and just eat that bit. Our pan is hot. The oil runs like water. So we're going to go over there. Start with our beans and the stalks of the bok choy that we just did. Okay, those guys will start frying off in there. Since we're at that stage, I am going to also lid off of that, introduce our peanuts into our stew, and our peanut butter. Which again, I think the easy way to do this would just be to use crunchy peanut butter. Get that stuff stirred around. Peanuts obviously bring a ton of flavor to whatever you put them in. Very, very strong presence. Our purple beans are really rapidly losing their purple. I think that may just be an unavoidable consequence of the purple stuff. It doesn't want to hold. I was supposed to put the garlic in right away. Do that now. Yeah, the purple stuff just fades out almost as soon as it starts to get hot. Pan is also not quite hot enough for the saute I'm looking for. We are going to put the leafy part in as well. And the one little middle part. Get in there. We're going to roughly whack the leafy part down to size. Chuck that in there as well. Those should shrink up quite a lot. Should. Keyword is should. Bok choy is definitely a little more robust than like a spinach that shrinks up a ton, but these big leafy parts should still definitely wilt down as I saute them here. Ooh, I can smell the peanut. Mmm. Let's see. Check my reference recipe on the side here for order of things going in. Oh, Oh, interesting. The shrimp paste is supposed to be like a condiment on the side. Huh. Okay, I can do that. Guess we'll reserve the shrimp paste. It wants me to add the toasted rice. Ooh. Stir that in. Okay. I think we're coming along. Interestingly, there's no spicy element to this dish that I can see. It does say salt and black pepper to taste, which is a thing that every recipe says these days. This shouldn't need any salt. There's plenty of salt coming from the shrimp paste, which you're adding to taste as you eat it. But I may put some black pepper in there to up the piquancy. I do love my black pepper. So let's open that up. I'm going to grind some black pepper directly into our pot. It doesn't look like much. It looks like peanut butter colored soup at the moment. Okay, some black pepper in there to, as I just said a second ago, up the piquancy. We'll stir that in. Oh, it's thickening. Oh man, that rice really quickly thickened. It's like a porridge. Wow, I wasn't expecting it to thicken quite that much so quickly. Hmm. I feel like it needs more water, actually. That's surprising. I may have added too much rice just then. Uh, we may have added too much rice. We're getting this in there though. Now. My garlic is burning a little bit. Get a scrapier thing to free up the garlic. If anybody watching knows what this dish is supposed to look like, let me know how close I am. I imagine it's pretty far away. But I don't honestly know. Okay, that guy's getting his top put back on. We're bringing this back to the heat and we're putting another dash of oil in it. And we are contributing our aubergine. And our banana flour. think I need a splash of water in this pan. And some garlic powder. I'm actually going to do that now. We're going to add it directly over here, because I don't think I got enough garlic for my taste in the main pot. Ooh, immediately smell the garlic. Okay. Okay. That's all of our ingredients. I should get a dish ready. Wow, we're only an hour and a half? Huh. This is well, I should test my meat before I commit. I really should have tested my meat before I committed those vegetables at all. It may just be that it is not done, and I needed another hour. Actually, I'm worried about that now. I think the short rib has only been in there for an hour 10. Oh, I already had a fork out. I already had a fork out for that. We're gonna pull one of them. We're gonna pull one of them onto a little plate, and I'm going to see how tough it actually is. The plate should be over here where I'm actually doing the pulling. So we're gonna pull one of these guys out onto this little plate. I'm concerned I may have had impatience. Over here. So it seems like it's coming apart. If I cut through it and just take a little bite. Oh, it's actually nearly there, but it's not ready. But it is nearly there. Putting that guy back in. Oh, it needs salt. There's no salt in that pot at all. Also, I think it's trying to stick to the bottom. Huh. If I was using actual oxtail, it would definitely not be done by now. But these small pieces of short rib, I think I'm just going to get away with it. It does want the lid to stay on, though. Oh, and these guys are going to burn if I don't push them around. So, oh, I didn't switch back. So and I'm supposed to use the shrimp paste as a condiment, according to this recipe at least, rather than mix it in. But I really feel like that stew needs salt, and this is my main source of salt. My nose is running for some reason. Just on the one side. Okay, I'm putting that in there. We can put a little scoop of it on the side of the bowl for a condiment as well, but that amount I just want in there. It'll add to the color. That stuff has dye in it. It'll add the saltiness. It'll add the fishiness. I'm doing this on the absolute worst burner for me and also for you because you can't see anything. After that, let's get it in there. Ooh, I definitely overdid the banana blossom. Okay, well, R.I.P. banana blossom, I guess. See if we can't save it. Banana blossom was a weird thing, anyways. I don't really know what to do with it. Last time I had some, it doesn't taste like much of anything. It's really a weird ingredient. The toasted rice was clearly meant to be a thickener here, but I feel like I've added too much and it's become almost a porridge. This is strange. I'm pretty sure I've done this wrong. Since we don't need that front burner for anything else anymore, let's bring this guy back to the front so we can see him. Look how thick this is. It's not so much a stew as it is a porridge. Huh. And I also very much, that needs to be off, very much feel like it's not quite done still. But it's so thick at this point that it's trying to burn itself onto the bottom of the pot. So I don't know that I can hold out any longer, which is really troublesome because I was expecting this to take longer, and I really shot myself in the foot by being impatient today. I'm not sure what I was thinking going into this. So I guess the temperature needs to be pretty low. I should taste it as it is now. Just to see what the heck's going on in there. Weird. Weird. It's got little crunchy peanutty bits. They're like, not crunchy, but like soft peanutty. They got a peanutty texture. It's shockingly mild. I can taste most of what I put in there, but none of it is really like waking me up. I said I wasn't going to add any extra salt, but I guess I'm adding extra salt directly to it. I'm also going to give it a shot of Maggi brown liquid. This stuff doesn't taste like much of its own. It's pretty much wheat gluten, like liquefied wheat gluten. Um, you can stick it into stuff and it will make flavor happen. It's a strange product. Like MSG, it's one of those things that doesn't really taste on its own. It just tastes weird. But you put it in other things, and it makes those other things taste more. It won't save something that's completely flavorless, but it will make things that are kind of dull sort of wake up. Whoa, that burner is very hot still. Okay. Guess we'll move that. It's not on, it's just hot. I feel like stewed dishes are not highly advisable for the old show here. I think that's the issue, is trying to do a stewed dish. I'm surprised at how not strong of flavor I've got at the moment as well. I thought for sure that all this stuff I was adding was going to make this like really wake up, but well, interesting. I'm going to let it broil. I don't want to. All the vegetables are already in there, so probably what I should have done is not added the vegetables for another hour. But I didn't have a thing in between to kill time with. Uh, I did that entirely to myself. I don't have any like half done thing I could pull out and work on. I just didn't. I just straight up didn't plan this one out very well. And it's not like the delays caused this either. This is the same plan I had on Tuesday. I just didn't do it, and I didn't do it. This would have happened any day. Peanutty. That's the thing that's not jumping out at me as strongly either. Is there wasn't a lot of peanut flavor in there. The rice porridge part of it was really kind of taking over, which I didn't think I added that much. I added just a smidge as far as I was concerned. Maybe I should have added way, way less. Okay, the salt and the Maggi sauce have definitely woken this thing up a lot. It tastes more like a savory stew. Still a pretty mild one, but it doesn't have that. It doesn't just taste like it's meant to be rice porridge. Um, we are sticking to the bottom a little bit, so I have to stir it around. I don't want. It can stand to go a little bit longer. The eggplant still hasn't broken down. That's what I'm really worried about. Is the egg? If the eggplant breaks down, we're done. Because then it's just going to turn to mush. Everything else can kind of survive. The bok choy was already going to be pretty much wilted to nothing, just by virtue of it being a leafy green. Oh, okay. The eggplants are starting to break down. But the eggplants are my big limiter at this point. The meat was acceptably cooked. It wasn't fall apart mega tender. It was acceptably cooked. Uh, but yeah, so a little bit of lost control of this one. I made a mess as usual. You guys can't quite see it. Oh, there's a There's a frond stuck back there. I couldn't see that except on the old camera. Well, I guess I'm coming to the end of it because I otherwise I'm going to be standing around doing nothing, and my eggplant was just getting to that stage of starting to go over, so I want to make sure to get it out of there before it turns to mush. We'll take the heat off. I guess we'll do a service, and then I'll dress the plate with a little bit of... I know what I'll dress the plate with. I know what we'll dress the plate with. That can cook away on residual a little bit while I get some plate dressing ready. I'm actually going to pop outside for just a sec. My scissors, because I can do a double duty on this, because I've got some chives that I can clip off, bring in, and they can do a nice, neat little garnish. So actually, while I'm prepping this, we're going to leave the lid on and let that thing think about its life. Countertop. So we've got a green onion. There's our plate, and some chives fresh from my garden. So I want these to be nice, like sticks, not little tiny minces. Hi, Sizan. The stew is I hamstrung myself a little bit. I was impatient. I think it needs to go longer, but I've already put the vegetables in it, and the vegetables are going to break down into mush if I let it go as long as I think it should. Now, the meat is acceptably tender. It's not fall apart wonderful tender. I was concerned. I'm prepping some garnishes and letting it get a few more minutes in before I dive in on it. I was concerned that I was kind of standing around at one point. I had things ready to go, and I was just waiting for the meat to cook and tenderize. And I let my impatience get the better of me, and I just started on the next step. And here we are. I also think I added too much rice. I don't have a good handle on using rice in that manner, and it, well, here, let me show you. If we switch over to the stove, pop the top off. Actually, I actually turned the heat off already. Turn the heat back on. This is the stuff. Here we are. It's kind of pink and brown. It's very thick. It's almost like a porridge. There's one of the pieces of meat. It's almost like a porridge consistency because of the ground rice. I toasted rice and ground it into little granules and threw it in here, and it very quickly turned this thing into a porridge consistency instead of a soupy consistency. And I'm pretty sure that was the purpose. The rice was supposed to be a thickener, but I feel like I added too much. So I also need to be careful because it's thick enough that it doesn't convect very well anymore, and the stuff keeps wanting to burn to the bottom instead of bruddle around. Can't even see my hands. Bruddle around. So I have to actively stir it now, which is a problem. I was prepping some garnish. I was going to put some chives and some green onions on the top, and an extra dollop of my shrimp paste. I opted to throw some shrimp paste directly in there, which is where the pink is coming from, because it seemed kind of dull in terms of flavor. I also added some annatto seed water that was supposed to be coloring, and no clue where the color of that went. And then I threw away the annatto seeds because you can't just put them in there. They're inedibly hard. So maybe I'll try something with annatto down the line now that I've got it, but it seems like a kind of a waste in this. I'm also getting a little bit hungry, which is why I kind of was shortcutting. Where I plotted this out, the recipe, when I read of it. I was like, oh, I can get that done in about 2.5 hours. Well, here we are coming in on 2 hours, and this should probably be served before the vegetables disintegrate into nothing. The eggplant is the one I'm most concerned about. There's still little coins in there. They're not totally disintegrating, but some of them are trying to start. So we're getting to that stage. My purple beans lost all their purple. They're just green beans now. The white beans are still reasonably white. There's one. Purple beans were a little bit of a waste. The purple stuff does not hold up to heating. It just turns green. So I hope that thoroughly answers the question of how's the stew. It's coming along. It's a strange color. It's a strange kind of fleshy color, which is why I really needed some nice garnishes for this thing, so that it doesn't just look like a strange fleshy stew when I put it on my plate. Oh, there's banana blossom in there, and that is just gone. I don't know what happened there. It just broke down into basically nothing. I keep looking at my fridge thinking, oh, I'll put something in there, put something in there. Here's the weird thing, and I didn't realize this until I got all the way through it. There's no spicy component in this at all. Black pepper is the only thing and it's a suggestion. It's black pepper to taste. Get this thing. Get it wobble. So yeah, that's how the stew's going. It's going fine, I guess. Fine, I guess is my ultimate verdict. Gosh, I hope nothing weird is happening around here. Let me know if anything seems off about the stream. Yesterday, when I couldn't stream, I wanted to stream and couldn't. OBS wouldn't connect to Twitch, but also a whole bunch of my settings on Twitch just vanished. There was some major disconnect. So I don't know which ones of those have been lost. I tried to put everything back, but I can't remember them all. I just expected them to not have to be redone all the time. So if you notice anything weird, please chime in. Let me know. So far, everything's been clear and smooth on my end. This stuff smells good. I'll give it that. The shrimp paste is definitely one of the prominent flavors or prominent smells. I like that shrimp paste. Ultimately, that stuff. Where's my little taster spoon? Taster spoon. Oh, I put it over here. Hot. Mm. Okay. I'm going to serve it. I'm going to serve it right now. I'm going to say, screw it. It's not going to get any better than it is. I'm just going to agonize over it. And also, I'm hungry because I had a very small lunch because I was making a giant stew for dinner. So I only had a small lunch. Although I shouldn't gorge myself. My appetite has definitely been whetted with hunger. We're going to get one of those chunks of meat out of there for sure. Oh, that one right there. Oop. Ah, shoot. Making a mess. Okay. One nice big plate of the stuff. Bring it over to the countertop. There it is. A kind of strange flesh-colored stew. I swear, it's much browner in the pictures. It's much more like peanut colored in the pictures. Hopefully that happens when I run it through some filters, because this weird pinkishness is not my favorite. I'm going to garnish it with two kinds of onion, probably excessively. I lost one. There it is. As I was mentioning earlier, keep the floor of your kitchen clean. So if you drop something, you can just pick it up and use it. If the floor of your kitchen is filthy, so will be your things that you drop. And this garish pink stuff, we're adding a dollop of that to the side as well. I'll put it right there. Yeah. So this is as I mentioned, as I have mentioned, I made kare-kare once before. And let me tell you, it was different last time. I feel like I should practice this and like on my own time and do it a few more tries because I feel like I did something wrong. I feel like honestly, I feel like I did something wrong both times, but I feel like it may have gone a little bit wronger this time. It still tastes nice, so it's not like it's a fail, but it does not strike me as the dish that was presented to me in the on the tin. I'm going to take a quick snap of this before I dive in on it, because I mean it's a finished dish, so I guess I'm gonna do that. I'll come back. I'll give you a preview of things to come. That way. these angles on this thing. Okay, we're coming back. And we're back, and this is the thing. Let me get an actually, no, one of my tasting tools was this little fork. Anybody knows what this kind of fork is for? Let me know. I picked one up at Goodwill. I get everything at Goodwill these days. We're gonna need a spoon, a fork, and maybe a knife. We'll see how tender the meat ultimately is. If I can get it apart without the knife. Oh, I can. Okay, that's a good sign. I think we just made it on the meat then, because I can pull it apart with a fork. It's got a little chew to it, but it's not chewy. So I think we made it. I think we just made it. For those of you following along at home, give it at least another half an hour to 45 minutes with just the meat and onions in there before you add anything else. Definitely that was a mistake. Meat tastes good though. The stewed vegetable melange around it is it's so strange. That's why I think this is wrong, because it's like a porridge. It's hot. Actually, oh, okay. Okay. I take back 35% of the things I've said about this so far. The flavor actually came together pretty well. Having the things stew in there after the fact definitely did contribute. It definitely needed some salt, which was a good thing I added some salt. Earlier, it was just bland. I think that Maggi sauce also did contribute a good deal to the depth of flavor I'm getting. But the green beans are cooked just right, as far as I can tell. The eggplant is actually a tiny bit over. It's gone a little bit mushy. Oh, there's one there. Well, yeah, it's a tiny bit mushy. It's still got a little bit of resistance to it. The green beans, I think, are just right, which is what happened last time too. The beans can stand up to the stewing process a lot more. I definitely think doing them first, as you're doing your vegetables, do them first by themselves, chuck them in there, and then you can progress through the other vegetables. And I would do the eggplant last. This stuff, now the way it's presented to be used is you're supposed to have a dollop of this stuff on the side, and you take a scoop. Well, that's banana blossom. That'll be interesting to try. You take like a scoop of your stew, and you get a little dash of that stuff in there. That was a big dash. Oh my god. Because this stuff is strong and salty. But you can add just like little tiny bits to bites to give you some variety. Be sparing with it. It is salty. It's definitely a condiment, not a like main component. Although I did main component some of it into the rest of the dish because I wanted more of that depth of flavor. It's kind of, I'm not going to lie, this one came out kind of ugly. The garnishing didn't do a lot to save it. And the pinkness of this getting into all the rest of that definitely gave it a weird kind of fleshy color. It tastes good though. It definitely has a good flavor. It's surprisingly subtle. It's honestly the description I kept giving it of a porridge is exactly what this is. This is like a savory porridge. Um, so it's got a lot of flavor. It's got a good beef flavor. It's got all these nice vegetables in there, but none of them are jumping out as strong flavors. It's all very mellow flavor. And then you can give it little dashes of that pink stuff to just give it little like fireworks of that salty punch just for individual bites. It actually came together pretty well in terms of flavor. It just falls victim to what all stews fall victim to, looking like a stew. Um, mm. I also think it probably could have stood to have more peanut in it. I think it's supposed to have a little bit more of a peanutty flavor. I'm going to cheat and throw some peanuts on top. And a drizzle of peanut butter. Because I think it should be more peanutty. Because peanuts are a core element of the ingredients. I just think they got a little bit lost. And that's my fault because I was really eyeballing stuff and trying to figure out how much this recipe was expecting. Taste it with those changes and see what I think. Get some of that meat in there too. I can cut the meat with a spoon, so that's a good sign. Mmm. 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 Yes. Yes. Some fresh peanuts on top. Perfect. The added peanut butter is giving it not a lot of extra peanut flavor, actually. It's surprising how, despite not being terribly strong, how controlling the main flavor of the dish actually is. The extra texture of the whole peanuts, though, and then the creamy texture of the peanut butter are definitely adding to this. That was a good addition. That was definitely not in the recipe, but I think that's a good topping. A little bit of peanuts on top. I may have to re-prep the plate and put some peanuts on it actually for additional photos. But yeah. So here we are on a Thursday. Some of you folks showed up, so thanks for everyone who showed up for Thursday for this strange delayed Thursday. I've been thinking about trying to do a non-cooking thing on Thursdays because it's a really kind of a dead day for me here on the stream. And clearly there's some people who show up for Thursday, although this one was predicted because of 2 days of delays on the actual Tuesday show. But yeah, I will be wrapping us up. We're on a different day, so let me check the list to see who's live and kicking. You know who I never get to raid is Billy. So he's playing Dinkum. Uh, I'm definitely tired of Dinkum. Maybe we'll check the rest of the list before I settle on him. Ooh, let's go see LeFay. LeFay's playing Cult of the Lamb, which has been a darling on the old Twitch here for a week and some change now. Okay. Yeah, so I will be back on my regular schedule starting on Saturday, and I'm still considering trying to get going on a non-cooking element to the channel on a different day. I've got some Lego. I want to see if I can maybe build Lego and people will tune in. I've seen other people do it, but I'm not sure if that's a thing you can do until you're established or not, in terms of people actually showing up for it. So maybe I'm just dreaming. Um, but so thanks for coming out. We didn't have a super robust chat today, but that's fine. I was a bit distracted anyways, so it would have been hard to keep pace if we'd been really going nuts. I need to come up with some more ideas that are crazy ideas because I think those draw people in a lot more. So really weird stuff. So yeah, thanks for coming out. Thanks for saying hi. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for all the thanks. And let's go say hi to LaFay. I'll just wait for the countdown.